Welcome to this sound report. It's mainly focusing on qubit Nautilus. And since there are so many videos about features, this video, or generally my sound report videos, are more about exploring the sound of a certain gear and what one can do with it musically. In this case, I just hit one key and have the Nautilus create an infinite delay. And this is possible because Nautilus has a feedback knob which can be turned up fully clockwise, and there is a certain limiter inside, that's what the manual says, preventing that there is some extreme chaos, preventing there's too much feedback, preventing it becomes too loud. So in general it sounds a bit as if the feedback would be algorithmic, since it is so controlled. I have now lowered it a little bit with the color feature, and when the module was blue, color meant a low pass filter, and when I turn up depth, this low pass filter was doing more. And now I switch to wave shaping mode, and when I turn up depth this time, I generate some additional distortion. And in general, I'm creating new delay patterns or rhythms now, since I only hit this key once and Nautilus is still somehow echoing. Now I turned the color knob to saturation, or SOS, which was very red, and then it becomes very distorted. A bit much maybe. Now I'm using low pass color to have it a bit quieter again. So that is one strength of Nautilus, to create these infinite echoes, which is kind of creating ambiences in a rhythmical way if you want. Nautilus has 8 delay lines and also different patterns that can be set with the dispersion knob, which is what I'm tweaking now. And then you may have some happy accidents or changes. It's all about finding a sweet spot, listening to what the module does, and maybe some interesting things emerge. So what I find really different compared to other delays or echoes is that the delay is not exploding. It still keeps its level even at the full feedback setting. Now I'm adding a beat, since the whole thing is clocked with a clock module called Parmena's New Workout, which allows me to use the freely created material later on in tunes or finish them in a Ableton Live with a certain tempo. You could hear that it was kind of syncing with the beat. So let's get back to Nautilus. The resolution knob changes the speed of the delay from 2 bars to 1/512th part of a note, which is very short. Now I'm with a 2 bar setting, and in between it was a bit faster, and that still is in my echo because it went into the feedback loop for a short time. Now I'm turning up the dry wet knob, since everything you hear is that one little tone I played. Now I play the second one. Of course, the echo gained loudness after I turned up the dry wet knob. Now I'm using the high pass filter. That's when the module turns green. As said, the color modes can be switched by just turning the color knob. now going back to some more saturation or SOS or wave shaping, hoping to find an interesting rhythm. I played another note now. So basically this is what you can do with the module when using it in that infinite feedback loop and with longer times. Of course, there are also ways of using it differently with shorter times or with different input material. You can also freeze the delay and purge it. The purging is something I find really special and interesting. So when you hit the purge knob, the delay vanishes, so you're free to create a new one. This is especially useful if you play a different note and you don't want the old note disturb the new echo. I also switched to pitch shift shimmer down now. That's the purple knob on the upper left, which means the echoes get pitch shifted 12 semitones down. You can manually change the semitone amount if you want with an app. Well, the input also uses some speech sample. I'm now changing also the feedback mode, which can be kind of a combination of cascading and ping-pong delay. Of course, it's always try and error. When I was experimenting, I received some really interesting results when using the pitch shift shimmer down, which I preferred compared to pitch shift shimmer up, since when you transpose upwards and put it back into the feedback line, it goes higher and higher, while it should go lower and lower if you pitch shift down. So this sound is generated by Hysteria. Hysteria and MCO both do this, and the distortion comes from Eudaimonia. It's a mixer, and the filter also does something, and there's a lot of modulation going on, and those modules are mixed together here. And let's hear the Hysteria first, solo. To modulate the waveform, something's going on, and the modulation is already happening. It's coming from Pamela. This is modulating the way the lights are flashing. You have internal LFOs here, and you can adjust the intensity to modulate something, and I'm modulating this. And also, actually, when I hit a key, this cable is connected to the pitch input, CV input from Hysteria. So when I play different notes, this plays a different pitch. And the same thing happens with MCO. There is also a pitch CV going into MCO, and I have different modulations coming from these LFOs. So when I play the sound, there is movement going on, and these LFOs modulate different parameters here, and before they do it, I put them into this module, which is an attenuator, meaning I can lower the modulation intensity. And I'm also modulating the filter. So this module is not very clean. It's not like a clean VCA. It always does something, which often is nice. So it's a bit too low now. When things come together, this gets more complex. And that's what makes it nice. So, rather than hitting the key, I can also use Pamela to open up the amp. Basically, the sound would always be audible if I would turn this VCA up, but the VCA is downwards, and that means when I play a key, the VCA gets opened by this envelope generator, and the envelope generator is like in every kind of synth. I can also make things shorter or have a longer release time. While actually it's been triggered from my key, I can also have it triggered from Pamela. And I configured it in a way that every once in a while it opens. And this has a rhythm. It's 87 BPM. So when I stop it, it stops. It's an Euclidean rhythm, so it has different moments when it starts playing and doesn't play. So there's a kind of random in it, which is leaving enough space at 87 BPM so I can fit in some delays. While the note I'm playing still plays a role. Now I play a deeper note, and the deeper note is played. Actually, this Nautilus delay is inserted, and it has a lot of delay lines, and I can try to have it play simple if I open up the dry wet. So this is the feedback, and this is the time. It is related to my clock, and I can filter the feedback. I can have more than one delay line. And I can have the time very short. And you can hear more of this if I have less filtering on it. And if I have more feedback. Sometimes this sounds more interesting if I put the sound into a different delay, which is this one, Nostalgia. And from Nostalgia, I am going out to U-burst, and from U-burst I'm going into this module. Now Nautilus is dry, and you only hear this delay, which is now by hand. And if you combine it with Nautilus, it gets more dimensions. it gets even more dimensions if I fit U-burst in. I can now have a permanent sound coming from U-burst. And mix it with the original signal. And now I have more experimental delays here. It can be reversed too. And I can put up the volume. And I can also add a beat. Coming from here. And add some noise parts. From music thing modular. Don't hear anything. Okay. So, when these videos haven't been recorded subsequently, I'm just trying to sort them thematically. Excuse me for some things I mentioned twice, but it's more about sound, as I said. And this time I'm more focusing on the beat, and I also work with other modules in this video. So being able to clock the Nautilus makes it possible to generate interesting rhythmic things that you can add on top of a loop, which may be a bit boring otherwise. And as said, Nautilus can also do very, very short delays that sound almost resonating, a bit like Cablus strong. And when you change some parameters, sometimes the tone changes. Like when I change dispersion or the feedback lines. As said, switching the color modes seamlessly is generating the most notable differences between the different echo effects that Nautilus is creating. Of course, when using a drum loop, you may go for shorter resolutions and also lower feedback settings. But as you can hear, it's not just Nautilus here I'm also using U-burst, and well, U-burst isn't meant to be a delay, it's that cloud clones, but there is some delay when granularizing a sound, and the little nostalgia delay from Dreadbox also adds some vintage delay here. So, like always in Eurorack, it's about experimenting and trying to find a setting that's interesting while the recorder is running. And I really like this music thing, modular thing, where I can add some samples that sound like radio. You can also put your own samples in there and now integrate them in rhythmical ways. Here is my Dreadbox module that I've played earlier. I'll leave it off now.